Step into Nick's studio and see what agencies create.
I forgot to turn down my volume. Hello everyone. I am just checking my volume settings here to make sure they're not messed up again. Okay, looks like everything's okay here. Okay. Now if I can just remember what I was doing. Hello Gladys and hello Linda Denton. Nice to see everyone today. Whoops. Okay, we're going to skip that. Okay, looks like I'm live here and everything's going okay. So I just have to go back to something here. Oh, too many buttons. Alrighty. Okay, we're gonna sound check. Can everyone hear me okay? Hi, Mary Jane. Nice to see you. So, sound check on. And can everyone hear me? And again, this week, I had updates to my laptop, I had updates to my phone, and I had updates to my watch. Thought my watch died, but nope, it was just updates. Okay, Mary Jane says she can hear me, so we'll go with that. Okay, what are we doing today? In my mess, I have the block behind me here that is the ribbon star block, and that's all done with FPP. The files should be below in the description below the video, and I'm going to show you right from the beginning how I started it and laid out my fabrics. So I also last week when I did the CHURN Dash, I did something. I saw Ellen Campbell do it, and I'm gonna put the camera down, and I did lose one of my cameras in the update. Some reason it's just not picking it up. Hello, Sewing with Luane. He says, hi, all my awesome quilting friends. Hope you are having a great day. Hope you are too. Okay, so from my, when I was watching Ellen Campbell do a churn dash with scraps, I thought, well, let's see what I can do. So, this actually here, this is a block I made from scraps, and that's all scraps. So what I did, and I'll put the camera down so you can see it, is I had some, just give me a second, I had to change my camera, so, well, there we are. Okay, so what I had some squares that I had made earlier, and so I thought, can I use those? So what I did was I laid them out, and from those, and I mean they're not in any order, they're all scrappy. So I took my templates that I had and what I did was I took the templates and all the templates that I needed for, okay, I need a print. So these are all solids, and that's a solid. So those aren't the ones I need. I need the print ones. So they should be in here, and they should say print. That's solid. Where are my print ones? They've got to be on the back here. Sorry about that. They've got to be in here someplace. That's solid, that's solid, that's solid, solid. Okay, I've lost my prints. Oh, here they are, right there. So I took the templates that I had for the regular one, and all I did was, with everything facing up so I could read it, I just took them and placed them on the right side, and I decided, you know, I didn't want to have it right up against like this, so I put them like this. And I just pressed my templates on. And then the next one, okay, that was over here. And this one, oops, I gotta turn this block. And everything is in the right order, like it's all facing in the direction I can read it. So I just pressed them on like this, and this one goes over here on that side. And then I needed one more block. See, I think I used 4 blocks. Okay, set that one there. And should have another one in here that goes in this direction. Yep, there it is. So I just placed them on opposite like this, pressed them on, cut them out, and added a white background to it, and cut them out. So 1, 2, 3, 4 scrap blocks that I had sitting in my scrap pile, and this is what it came out looking like. So that's a great way to use scraps. If you have some already sewn together, you can use them. Now I'm just going to finish pressing this on, because why not? I'm going to make another one of those. Use up some of these scraps. There we go. So now all I have to do is go back and cut out my background fabric. Now I could change my mind. Instead of doing a white background, I could do a black background. I might try that, but these are all ready now to be cut out and sewn together and put together in my block. So thank you to Ellen Campbell for that idea. Okay, so now we'll get this stuff out of the way. And first of all, the 2 fabrics that I'm going to be, yeah, it is Lorraine, thanks to Ellen Campbell. The 2 fabrics I'm going to be using are, this is a white tone-on-tone, and it has stars on it. This one is a print, and it is a directional print, and it says Noel on it. So those are the 2 fabrics, and I am going to be making a table runner out of this for Christmas for the craft sale that's coming up. And I have lots of this, so I can even use this for the background or the binding, or I can choose a color from here. So those are the 2 fabrics I'm going to be using. And now, so here are the files. Doesn't this one look wonderful with all these little numbers on there? It's because when I was coloring my coloring page in, it was like, oh God, where is that A1 or B1? So I made them all so that I could choose my fabrics. And I wouldn't have to try to figure out which one was which, because it's quite small. And so where is my one that I did the print on? It's here someplace. There it is, underneath. So from the ribbon star block, underneath I think is where I put my colors. Yes, there it is. Okay, I don't know whether you can see this very good, but what I did was I colored in the areas I wanted to be red and left the others white. On this block I decided, oh, I want maybe a green center and white on the outside. So I colored in those two sections. So that told me when I go to make this block, instead of using white in the section, in the middle section, I can use B1 template and C1 template and cut them out of green fabric, and the others will be out of there. So this is a mock-up of what it would look like in a whole quilt using the two colors. This one is a different color. I put them all together, and then I put a center sashing, outside borders, and that's what that came out. Now here's one that I could do, and it's in a on point. I turned the block on point, and it gives a different look. I've done green and green, so that's something I could do as well. Greenland Quilter. Katie is here. Thank you. Greenland Quilter says, y'all hit that thumbs up like button to help the channel out, please. Thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate that. No, this would drive me crazy. Yeah, the options, that's what I find hard, is I come up with just a basic block, and then what am I going to do with it? And it's very, very simple to do. Just switch it around, switch colors. Everything is laid out for you here, so you can make different blocks. You can use scraps if you want. But normally this is all done with half square triangles. And but I didn't want it half square triangles. I wanted it to look so that I could get most of the print. I'm going to turn this here so you can see that these are half square triangles, but this is a flying goose. They've put it together using half square triangles, and I'm not the best at half square triangles, so, and I'm not good at flying geese. So what I did was I adapted it so the templates, the stitching templates and the cutting templates I use, I made this into a flying goose with two squares on the end. This one I made into two triangles on the end and three sections that look like flying geese. The next block is just this, or the next row is just this row reversed. This row is just this row reversed. So I have decided that that's what I want to do. So I made my rows and the stitching templates, and these are in the PDF file below the video. This is my A block, so there it is, or A row, sorry. This is my B row, and this is my C row, and here is my D row. So I'm going to be making 4 rows, and each one has their own templates, so I'm not going to get mixed up on anything. So I'll show you. I'll just set this back here. I'm working on something else too, another FPP, and I've got it all got everything all screwed around here, so pardon me. Okay, so here is options for using this block. This is the picture, and this is the corresponding sections, wherever you want to put it. Now remember, this is the right side of your fabric, so anything you color in here is going to be on the wrong side of your row. And if you look at here, I'll bring out the other ones. So the files, page 1 is your coloring page, and I accidentally printed out a few, too many. So page 2, you can see that this is your stitching template, so you're going to be placing the fabrics on the wrong side. But now if you look at the stitch or the fabric templates, and I'll just bring up this other one here. Now you probably won't see it on camera, but you will notice if I take A1, did I lose that? What did I do with it? Here it is, A1. So on this diagram, it shows A4 on the left side and A5 on the right side. Why is that? Because this is the stitching side, this is the fabric side. So now if you look at this, I don't know whether you can see it or not, but I can see A4 underneath. So when I put my fabrics on, A4 is right where it's supposed to be, and it'll come out looking exactly how you color it on this side of the page. Any questions as I go along? Just if you don't understand it, that's okay. I didn't understand some things first off, so that's why I tried to make it so I only work with stitching templates and pattern or fabric templates, and I can't mess it up. And I said that with tongue-in-cheek because I still can, but at least this helps me not mess up. So here is your stitching template, and here's some fabric templates. I can't fit everything on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, so I have to arrange them when I put them on here so that I can use the best possible layout and use the least amount of paper. There is a 1-inch test square. So page 2, this is page 3. This also gives me an idea of how to lay things out. You can see I've got everything laid out here, and you'll see when I'm going to, I've got a bit of a glare there, haven't I? Well, maybe not, just a little bit there. Okay, so this sort of gives me an idea. Now, the next thing, and you don't really need any directions or anything or sizes to cut. You just use the templates and you cut your pieces and put it together. So this is C, and page 5 is D, and then whatever wouldn't fit on those, I put it on here. So you print them out either on paper. I prefer to use freezer paper. But you can print these out and stitch through the line exactly like you would. I use freezer paper because I can use it more than once, and I'm saving paper, I'm saving printer ink, and also by using the freezer paper, I am stitching not through the paper, I am stitching along the line, which saves me on needles. I'm not doubling a needle through sewing with paper, and using the templates, I can you reuse them to cut another block. So if anybody has any questions or anything. Okay, so I'll go on to, now right before the video, I had a teeny tiny little accident. I actually just nicked my finger. So if you see that, it's just, I nicked my finger on my rotary cutter, and because I'm on an anticoagulant, of course it started to bleed, and so I had to take a moment to repair myself. Okay, so that's everything that is in the PDF file. I think I did put this in as well, and the block is going to measure 9 inches. Finished. Unfinished 9.5. Okay, we'll set that aside. And now from the fabrics, here are the fabrics that I have. Here is the strip. Now this was the first cutoff of the fabric. You can see I pre-washed my fabrics and I serged the edge, and so I laid out, oh, I should go back to the layout here and just refer to this again. When I decided where my colors are going to be, my background color, I labeled the fabric templates with whether it was a background or a print. So I know that the backgrounds, here's A1, so I just listed them, A1, B, and then over here my print sections. Now on this one, B1 and C1 are background. If I wanted to put another color in there, I could just write down I want green and erase this. I do everything in pencil. So when I change my mind or I off to the side, I can just write that down. Yeah, be careful, Shirley, Gladys says. Yeah. Too many things happening this week that nicking my finger was just one of them. Okay, so that's how I would go about that. So now I have pretty much everything straight in my mind, that background is white, print is going to be from the print fabric, and it's directional. So when I laid it out, you can see that I have it laid out in front of me so I can read the Noel. And from that, and this is where I cut it off, and I had a little tiny bit extra on the end that I didn't need. And so then from that, and because this is my first cut, or my first layout from this side, I placed my templates on so that I can read them, and I just placed them so I could use the least amount of fabric. And they're ironed on. I cut mine from freezer paper. I've ironed them on, and I just, oh, my iron is kind of leaking there. Okay. So I just pressed them on. I laid them out. And remember, with this, you don't have to cut really accurate. What sizes are these? Be danged if I know. All I know is that they work. They fit, and they will work. I'll have a little bit of waste, but I don't mind that as long as I can keep everything straight in my mind. So those are my templates, fabric templates, and so I'll show you how I cut them out. Now, this video probably will be a bit longer because I'm going to be cutting everything out. So now for my background fabric, I took my pieces and I laid them out on my from my, from this, the thingy, you know, the fabric. And so these templates go on the right side of the fabric. So I took all the ones like this and I laid them out, and then I just cut a whole strip the width of my fabric. And now when I want to make more, right now I'm making just one, but I could stack layers of this. Now I could measure it, and I think this is 3 1/4. Nope, 3 1/8. So that was the strip that I cut for these templates that I need for my background. So then, and again, I can remove these and take them off and cut them, cut more out. If I lose anybody along the way, just let me know, or if you're finding this boring or whatever, you can just say that's boring. Okay, so then next, from my background, these are the pieces that I'm going to need, and I laid them out and cut a strip that length, and that's enough to make one block. And this one is, let's see, this one is 3 inches. Mind you, I don't measure when I go. I just place my templates on and cut the strip the size I need, and that way I can make more. I use an awful lot of scraps. What I used to do with my scraps was like everybody else, you know, cut them 2 1/2, whatever size. I don't do that anymore. I found it took a lot of time, and with the templates, I don't have to know what size I'm making or what size I need. The templates are going to just tell me what to cut. So now this one, these ones are a little bit bigger, I think. So this one is approximately 3 3/8. We'll call it 3 1/2. So that strip is 3 1/2. And I don't separate my scraps from the fabrics. I keep the scraps all together, so when I go to make another project with that fabric, I don't have to go looking in my scraps to find pieces that I could use for foundation paper piecing projects. So it saves me time there. So now we're going to cut these apart, and my rotary cutter, and we'll try to be safe, and I'm just cutting on the outside of the solid line. Remember, accuracy is not important. It doesn't have to be right on the line. It can be anywhere in between. If you do cut a little bit beyond that solid black line into the template, it's not a big deal unless you cut more than 1/8 of an inch in. So I'm just going to cut these apart.
It's 3 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. I don't know whether you heard that or not, but my computer tells me what time it is on the hour. So she was just letting me know I'm already in a half an hour in. My scraps, I saved them in little bundles like this because I want to see, you know, and then I give them to my daughter, like I said. So these we're just going to throw off to the side. And now I'm going to work with this section. I know other people would probably measure the size they need and everything, but I found that very difficult, and the shapes were what got me. I just couldn't figure out which way. Remember, these templates are put on the right side of the fabric. So we'll just cut these apart. The accuracy when you put a block together comes from stitching your piece onto the freezer paper. So if these aren't an exact size, I don't have to worry. Okay. So now we'll throw those off to the side. Okay, so now this one. Now, if you look at this one is all triangles. They're the exact size I need. But on this one, I can put one of these templates on. It's going to be a little short though. So, but that piece that's cut off there, I'll put it back in with my fabric and it'll be used for something else. So now we're just going to cut these apart. Whoa, it just didn't cut quite right through there. There we go. I do not have a large selection of fabrics, 100% cottons, but I will use any type of fabric and make a quilt block or something out of it. I used to be a garment sewer, and that's where a lot of my fabrics come from. They're 65-35, some of them are 50-50. I have rayons or whatever, all sorts of fabrics. So jean fabric, and I found with paper piecing with jean fabric, because of the thickness, it goes together really nicely because you don't have to worry about cutting your sizes exact. So this piece here will go back in, and I will cut some more of those. Now we're just going to throw these over here. And now, where is, oh, here it is. Yeah. So here is my templates for my print. We're going to cut these out. And I've placed these on so that I have the least amount of waste. And again, I don't have to keep referring back to my pattern to see what size I need to cut these things. The pattern will tell you cut this 1.5 inches or this 2.5 inches, and then cut it on the diagonal, and it was like, oh, I kept getting lost. I have fibromyalgia, and I suffer from brain fog. And since I came up with this idea of doing it this way, I don't have to keep referring back to a pattern. Now this one isn't cut exactly on the line, but that's okay. We'll throw that one off to the side. And you can see I'm not being real careful with anything. And I'm not worried about where I'm putting these pieces, because it's ABC 1, 2, 3, and we'll just keep cutting out. Not mind-boggling. Like I said, might be a longer video today. So what is everybody else up to today? I was watching Kathy's Quilts and Crafts earlier, and I had to go out a little bit earlier, before the video, or before I had to go live. So I missed whoever was on today. But I usually sit here and watch YouTube videos while I do my work. So does anybody have anything interesting to share? I know some are doing round robin. I think it's, Kelly's Quilts and Cruises. I think that's, I can't remember the whole name, but she was doing that. Kathy, I'm not sure, I can't remember what Kathy was working on today. Okay, so that is done. My fabrics are all cut out for one block. They're all in a pile. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort them by row. So A row, B, C, this is B, A, D, B, C, D, B, everybody, that's A, B, C, D. And now we are going to put them in order. There's 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's my A section, and I'll put that with my stitching template, and that is ready to be stitched together. So now we have B1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Take my B stitching template, and now we have C. C1. And throughout the whole process, I shouldn't get lost or have to worry about which way they're going together. D5, 4, and 5. There we go. And there is my D block, or D row. I'm going to take them, and I have extras of my stitching, or my fabric templates if I want to do 2 rows. I usually print out, if I'm doing blocks, I will print out 4 copies of everything, and then I can place everything on the fabric and have 4 copies to do chain piecing. We're just going to be doing 1 block today. So that goes there, and now I don't need this anymore. And now I just have to move some things off to the side here. And we can start stitching. So again, I'll go through what I am using. I just need to switch a camera here. Okay, here, this is a picture of the desk and my sewing machine, just so that in case I don't switch cameras, you can still see what I'm doing. I will switch to the sewing machine, and that's a close-up of the sewing machine, and if I turn my camera on, it probably will work. There we go. You might see a little fluttering or whatever. But here's my sewing machine, and again, the foot I used, I am working on a FAF Creative 4.5, and the foot I am using is a Stitch in the Ditch foot. And I'll try to get this up nice and close. You can see the little guide in the center, and my 1/4 inch seam is actually right if I run my fabric along there. So when I am stitching, this guide right here is going along that stitching line, whether I'm sewing through the paper or whether I'm sewing beside the paper. So that is the foot that I am using. I am just using a regular sewing machine needle, nothing special. I usually match the thread and the needle to the fabric that I'm using. I'm not stitching through the paper again because of that, I save on needles, and that's all down there. I am only going to be using a 1 or a 2.0 stitch length on my FAF Creative 4.5. And I am just using, let's see, I'll tell you what I'm using. I am using Glide, and it is a number 40, and I'm just using white thread. So, and I think my needle is a 12 universal. So whatever fabric, like if my fabric was a lighter weight, I would use probably a lighter needle. Okay, so now let's go back to, back to the desk here, and I am going to be going back and forth to my sewing machine. So here we have, there's my cutting board. I need my add a quarter ruler. Don't need it. You can use just a regular 1/4 inch mark on your ruler. And I need my little pressing mat that I use because I'm using freezer paper. I don't need to use any pins. These are the baking sheets that I always use, and that is only because I don't want the iron to touch this side of the freezer paper. It's not wax paper, it's plastic coated, and I always stress that in my videos. The stitching templates, I pre-fold everything, and so now we're ready to work with our first section with A1. A1, your fabric always needs to be a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to move this over, and we'll get stitching this down. I just need to take a sip of coffee. Sorry, you're not going to see me on this part. Okay, so now I've placed my template on the right side of the fabric. So when I flip this over, this is the wrong side of my fabric. So where does this go? It goes to the wrong side of the template. I can take my piece, lay my stitching template. I'm going to move this out of the way here so you can see on the blue. So now I can lay this on. My fabric template is still on the back. I can see, even through this craft, whatever, freezer paper, I can see that if I line up my ruler, I can see that I have more than a 1/4 inch here, and more than a 1/4 inch there. I have some at the top and some at the bottom, and that's all I need. If you have a weird shaped piece, you can lay your stitching template on top and simply place your pins in to where you have it placed, and then just lift it out of there, and you can see that it is pretty close to the area I need, because this is my stitching line. So we'll just take that out. Just hold that in place so I don't misalign it. Now, freezer paper. Normally you would pin your fabric, but because I'm using freezer paper and I don't want to be right on there, the baking sheet, you can just press your freezer paper on and make sure I didn't, whoa, my iron is too full of water. I keep tipping it. Now I'm going to be using two different types of, I just spilt water on there. I'm going to be using two different types of irons here today. This one is just a unique creative. It's not the steam fast. This one can have steam. I find if you press the freezer paper on the here, that it onto your fabric, that it works better if you press on the freezer paper side. It makes everything stick. Now for my first piece, I'm just going to flip this over. Sometimes I forget and I cut through my template, but that's not a big deal because you can put it back together again with just hi Larry Clark. You can put it back together again with just another piece of freezer paper. You don't have to use tape or glue or anything. You just freezer paper it together. Okay, so there is my first piece on. So now we want A2. The first thing we need to do is slide our pressing thing out. And how about we do two of them at a time? Let's do C because it's pretty much the same. Or no, D, is it? C, C, D. And okay, so I'm looking for D. C and D should be the same. So A templates, I'm setting these just off to the side. And D templates. So now let's take our D and find our D1 because they're just opposite. And again, everything is in the right position. Yeah, I can read everything there. And now I'm just going to put this on the same way that I did before with a section. So we'll do two sections at a time. It'll be like chain piecing. No questions? I'm either really confusing you or I'm a good teacher. I don't know which is which. Anyway, now we'll just take that template off. And now we're going to get our next two templates. Now, my fabric templates, I will put them in background and print piles. So this will now go over to the side, and that is my background pile because these are in order. So now we're going to go to A2 and D2, R2, D2, fold on the fold line. So we can place number 2 on and trim our seam to 1/4 of an inch. And there it is there. I'll set this off to the side, and now we'll do the same thing with D. Fold it along the line. The freezer paper holds the fabrics in place. Eventually you will have to print out another copy because the freezer paper will collect the lint from the fabric. Oh, and I got something there. Okay, and I don't know where that came from, but anyway, just give me a second here. I'm seeing something on my screen that I need to get rid of. And sorry about that, but I just can't. Okay. And now remember that I have brain fog today. What was I supposed to remember? I don't know. I can't remember. Okay, so back to what we were doing before I was so rudely interrupted with something. I still can't see that over here. Okay, there we go. So now I'm ready for my next two sections. So from my piles of fabric here off, I should put these onto this side so that you can just see. So here's my A templates and my D templates. So I'm going to take A2. This is like this. That doesn't look right, does it? So we're going to take it, flip it over, and there goes a template. It's right side up, right side up. So we're just going to release the freezer paper on this. Ooh, come on. There we go. That goes in my print pile. And now this is going to be stitched on. We're just going to flip it over. Line up our cut edges. Doesn't have to be extremely accurate. That's how it's going to lay on. I'm going to pick it up, and if you were stitching through the paper, you would stitch along there. I'm going to be folding this back, and you can see I have my put it on maybe blue and you can see it. So there you can see my two pieces lined up. Now, how are they right so I don't get it positioned in the wrong place? If I look right here, this is the edge of my paper. I can see that I have a little tiny bit hanging over here, and I have a lot right here. So I'm just going to scooch this over to my left a little bit. So now I have about the same amount, this line running across here and this line running here. I have about 1/8 of an inch or so on both sides, and that is going to give me enough so that when I fold it back into the finished position, I'll have enough extra when I fold it back, and I'll be showing you that in a moment. So now we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to stitch next to that folded line. And again, I'm lining up. Oops, let's just give you a better look on that first. And there we are. So I'm lining up that center guide on my presser foot there. Line it up. And I can come in and just stitch a straight line and run that guide right along the folded edge of the paper. And I can back stitch at the beginning and end. And the stitching for using the stitch beside method is it's just straight stitching. Okay, and oh, I forgot I wanted to put D on there. Oh heaven, see? Okay, I want D, D2. I should have chain pieced this, but I forgot. Take my template off. I got so involved in okay, enough on that side, enough on that side. Perfect. Just take it to the sewing machine and stitch away. I can back stitch at the beginning and end, and I'm not going to be pulling the paper out. I'm just going to be pulling the paper off. Oh, and I'm in case I forgot, I'm just using a 2.0 stitch length. You don't need anything longer. On my machine, the regular stitch length is 2.5, and that's probably what I would sew for garments, but I just increase my, or decrease my stitch length for foundation paper piecing, not because I'm stitching through paper, it's just because I don't know, I just got in that habit. Okay, so now we have these two pieces stitched on, so now we need to press them, and I like to press my seams open. So when I fold that back, you can see that I have extra at the top, that's for trimming later, and when I fold it back on the next piece, fold this on that line, you can see I have well more than 1/4 of an inch right here. But now, when you stitch through the paper, you can't press your seams open, like I said in all the other videos. You can't press your seams open. Stitching next to the line, you can press your seams open. Now, I was doing this a different way, but I would, every once in a while, I would lose a point, and I couldn't figure out what that was. And so now, this is a bias cut here, but it's stitched. The freezer paper is holding this piece down, so I don't have to worry about anything shifting. And I'm just going to press, finger press, that seam open. And how I got to that was I pressed it to the finished position, brought it forward, fold it back, and I can see that my stitching line is right along that fold. So I'm just going to press that seam open with my fingers. You really don't need to, you can use like the magic juice that everybody uses, and you'll just put a little bit along that line there. And now, because I want that seam to lay open, I'll just flip this up, release it from the freezer paper, or release the freezer paper from the fabric, lay that down, and that fold is running right along that seam line. Fold it into the finished position, and this is the other little iron I'm going to be using. I'm pressing from the printed side of the freezer paper, and I'll do the same thing with D. Fold it, give it a little press, flip it towards me, flip it back. Thank you, Gladys. You guys aren't very talkative on my channel. How come? Let's have some chatter. We need chatter. Now, if you have thick fabrics or whatever like that that don't want to stay open, what you can do is fold this back, take your iron, press that seam open, and then let that fold back down, and it's in the finished position. Oh, thank you, Gladys, for sharing channels. I appreciate that. Gladys is my only moderator right now in the chat. I try to keep watching the chat, but sometimes I miss things. So she shared Katie's channel. Okay, so now I have that into position, that into position. Now at any time, if I'm not sure where I left off, what I'm supposed to do next, my templates are in order, and I know I'm working on A3 and D3. So now we have to trim our seams. So I'm going to fold this along the line between A1 and A3. And we'll just trim those down. Put that over here. And this time we'll do a chain piece. And the only squaring up or trimming that you'll do, there's no trimming of half square triangles. Oh, I just got back from getting an oil change in my car. Oh, that's great, Gladys. And Mary Jane, you're cutting fabric. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm working on D3 and I have both of them trimmed. So now I'm going to place this in the finished position. And I'm going to take my, this is my A. So I'll take my A and lay it down. And again, I go through this probably every single time. That's a print. But I think I need to move this up a bit. Or I need to move myself up a bit because you can't see everything. Okay, so there is A. And here is D. And just place that down, and when I pick this up for A, I'll just give it a quick check, and I have extra on this side and a little bit here, so we're just going to scooch that over so I have about the same amount. And you can tell by your last piece, and this, there is this little point, and there is the edge, so I know it's in the right position. Now I will take a little clip, and I'll just clip that together. When I'm doing 4 chain piecings, I will clip them all together and just adjust that so it's looks like it's in the center. And Mary Jane, what are you cutting fabric for? Oh, no problem. Katie says she thanks for sharing the link. You can thank Gladys for that. And Greenland Quilter Katie says, I'm sitting here eating and talking to somebody about the path of Hurricane Helene. Both my kids might be in danger. Oh, no. It is warm here today. Okay, I'll know more in a few hours because the Gulf is very fickle and things can change, causing it to make a completely different path. Yeah, you never know with weather. Okay, so now I'm just going to take this to the sewing machine and do a chain stitch of these 2 pieces. Line my guide up, make sure I'm watching the tip of my guide, not my needle. Back stitch. And I didn't, sometimes I have my speed on my sewing machine too fast. Okay, now I'm just going to place this one underneath. I can just trim my threads. I do have a thread cutter, but it is temperamental at times, and I just get going and forget to use it. So now we're back at the desk. Oh, for a tree quilt. Awesome. Okay, so A and D, now we're going to fold this back. Give it a quick finger press. Flip it over. Now, how do I know that that is accurate? And if I fold this back, you can see right here that this seam is following that one right there. And I know that that is going to be very, very accurate. So now I think I'll just flip that up, give that a press open, whoops, and let that fold back down so the seam is open. Now, the other thing to check is if you run your line here, you can see the seam line right there. I can see it, maybe you can't. Also here is my fold line, and my fold line is right on that seam line. And that's how you can check. So now that one's done. We'll do the same thing with this one, and we'll keep going on. Give it a finger press. I'm not using the magic juice. Again, here my seam line is running right along there, so I know that's going to turn out very accurate, or at least I hope it will. But that's why, is that before I wasn't checking those points and making sure my fabric and everything was laying down really flat. And again, I have pressed the freezer paper onto my iron, but I found all I had to do was on a wool cutting mat or whatever, just rub your iron on there, and that took the stickiness away. Okay, so now we're doing the next section, and it is A4 and D4. So here's D4. I seem to be out of frame here a bit. Trim. Hi, Kathy. So there's D4, A4, and trim. So now A4, I'll put that right there, and D4 so I don't get mixed up. Remove the freezer paper, flip this one over, that looks good from this side. And even if these edges aren't lined up perfectly, it's okay. It'll all work. I'll set that to the side. Take my A. Yep, that's A. Fold that in just there. Flip it up, and this one I don't need a clip in because I'm going to be stitching this one right away. And I think I need just to move this camera down a little bit. Sorry about that, but I'm just a bit out of frame on the bottom part. Okay, now we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and now I can hold my threads. Line up that guide on the folded edge and stitch away. Back to the table. Thank you, Gladys, for sharing Kathy's channel. I appreciate that. Okay, fold over. And oh no, I thought I was short there, but that's a piece of paper. Yep, I have lots all the way around there, so we'll go back to what I was doing here. Quick finger press. Press this open. I'm just going to release that and press that seam open. I just wasn't paying enough attention when I was missing my points, and that's coming right there where I want it to be. When I fold it back and press it into the finished position, my fold lines tell me I'm exactly where I need to be. So there is that one done. Now this one. And this is going to be a table runner, like I said. I don't make too many large quilts because I find I get bored making big things. Okay, D4 and A4. So now I know that from here I have A5 and D5. So let's trim A5. Little piece didn't come off there. So now there's A5 and D5. Does anyone else have a channel that Gladys is able to share? I don't know whether Luane is here or not, or but Luane has a channel as well. I'll try, one of these days I'll try to get a Nightbot set up or something so everybody can share their own channel. Okay, so where was I? I'm working on D5 and A5. So A5, that goes there, and D5 goes there, I think. D5, yep. Release the freezer paper. It's nice that the freezer paper sticks to your pieces, because if you, like me, sometimes they end up, everything falls on the floor and then you have to figure out where it all came from. And that looks good. Take my clip, set it off to the side. Now we're doing A5. Put his link in the chat. Okay, great. Thank you, Gladys. I appreciate that. Okay, and there's this piece. And now we're ready to sew these two pieces. When I'm done with this, I'll show you what I'll be working on next. and it is a Carol Doak pattern. It's an FPP. I started out adapting my patterns or traditional quilt blocks into FPP, and like, I think sometimes we all get kind of tired of you know, sewing blocks together that, you know, you just want something different. So I'm trying out a Carol Doak pattern, FPP pattern from 2000 and I think it's 2005 or 2015. So I'm giving that a whirl in the background of my close-up, or my video of me, or the camera view of me. You can see, you'll see where I've got one star, or one part of it started. It's going to be a 12-inch block. Okay, so I'll just quickly go on with this. Kathy, remind me what you were working on in your channel today. I was there watching, and I was busy doing something else, so I didn't join in the chat, and I can't remember what you were doing. So those two are done. One's an A and one's a D. So now we'll go on to B. And B and C. So we'll set B's up there. They're in all order. And C. Let's put B on the top. That's CB. Okay, I'm going to flip this over. Line it up. That looks good. Enough there, and enough there. Press this down. And now we'll do C. Once I get all fabrics cut out and everything like that, I just enjoy just stitching right along, just being able to put things together and not have to think about anything other than sewing. And this just gives me the way I put it together, it just gives me a way to not have to think about anything or which way things go. So now we want B2. So we'll put everything into B2 and C2. Put everything in order, fold along B2. I'll just try to keep moving right along here. Oh, okay, my sewing machine has heated up. So my phone has to cool off a little bit. So you're not going to see that, so I have to take you back to the desk. My phone likes to overheat, so just give me a second here. iPhone needs to cool down before you can use it. Emergency. Emergency. So the sewing machine isn't going to work, so we'll go back to the desk. There we are. So there, that was some excitement, wasn't it? Okay, C2. That's the most excitement I've had all day, other than clipping my finger. Story of my life. Okay, now we're going on to C2 and B2. We better do B2 first. That's B and C. So B2, B2, C2, C2. Ah, looks fantastic. Should go together perfectly. Ah, now we have a different look here. So now we're folding this way. Look at that. Okay, so now how do I line that up? Okay. Our first piece is like that. I'm going to put the second piece on. Okay, and you can see my letters are facing the right way. So now this one's going on like this. And that's one of the reasons why I used templates. Okay, C2 is a print, so it goes over and prints. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I don't have to fold this back or anything. I'm just going to pick it up. And from this side, I'll fold this back. Here is my point. Right here. Here is the folded edge of my paper, and I can see the folded edge of the fabric, or the fabric cut edge on this side. So if I stitch this on right here, it should give me enough to cover that space. I'm just going to scooch it a little bit to the left because I have more on the right here. And I'll put a clip in there. And sorry, but my machine camera has overheated, so I won't be able to show you how I stitch that, but it's just stitched the same way. Again, I'll just take this, lay it on where I figure it's supposed to go, bring it towards me and fold that paper, and I can see where I've got way too much over on this side here. So I need to scooch this over, and you can see that I cannot see any of my red fabric on this side of my paper. So I know I have to just scooch that over to the right a little bit. And now when I fold it down, I should be able to see some of the red fabric against the cut edge of my template. Do just a little bit more. And we'll stitch this down now and see if I was lining that up correctly. And sorry about my machine overheating, or my camera overheating. And again, I'm chain piecing. Okay, here I am back, and everything's still looking good. Hope so. So now the test is to fold this back into the finished position just to see if I lined that up correctly and if my theory works out. And yes, there's fabric on this side that I need. And when I fold this back, there's lots of fabric over there, so I can go ahead and I'll check this one. Fold it into the finished position, flip it over, and yes, everything looks good from this side. So I was correct in my positioning my piece, using that sort of looking at it and seeing from the wrong side there, or from that other side. that I can see the fabric from on the outside of the template. Fold that back and press that into the finished position and go on with the other two. The other pieces. Now, Kathy, you didn't remind me of what you were working on. I can't remember. I know Susan was there. Were you knitting? Maybe you were knitting. Because I know Susan from Sewing Sensations by Shady Susan. I know she was teaching you to knit. Okay, both of those are in the finished position now, so we can flip them over and trim. And I'm now working on B3 and C3. Now I could have done this the traditional way and cut out half square triangles and put it all together, but my accuracy doing it that way is just pathetic. So C3, I want to put that in the upright position. B3. So B3 and C3. So this is B3, goes right there, and C3. And again, we're going to have to do our little checks on this because it goes in a weird direction. But laying this down and flipping this back, I know exactly the way it goes. And now I'll flip and check here. Okay, I can't see any red on this side, so I need to move that to the left. Okay, I can see there I've got on that side, and ooh, I'm a little short there. I might have moved it over just a little too much, so I'll just scooch it back a bit. Yep, I can see that's good. Let's put a clip in there. Make sure I've got my piece on right. Yep, that's B. I'm always double checking myself. You were knitting yesterday. I finally figured out casting on with Susan's help.
It's 4 o'clock.
It's 4 o'clock. Okay, thank you, computer. Yeah, I knew Susan was teaching you to knit, and she's doing that on the on your Saturday. Is it Saturday Zooms? Private Zooms. Okay, that looks good, and that looks good there. So now we can stitch. Again, I'm chain piecing this. My sewing machine camera is an old iPhone, and I might have to switch it over to my new iPhone. So sorry I wasn't there to to show you my stitching. I'm just gathering up some of my pieces, and now I am pressing. And if I've done this correctly, again, yes, I can see that that's good. Let's move this into view. Check and make sure that this one is. Yep, I've got fabric there that I need. Just going to give that a quick press from that side. And just a quick press from this side here on this one. And now we'll flip it over and press those seams open. And that line is right on there, so I know I've sewn that correctly and my templates are designed properly. Yes, Saturday private Zoom. You should join us Saturday. We have a lot of fun. I just might do that. I do have some things coming up that I can, as long as you don't mind me sewing away, and I'd love to do that. Thank you for the invite, Kathy. I appreciate that. Okay, now. I can't talk and think at the same time. What was I doing? B3. Okay. That's what I was doing. Gotta fold this back the other way. I'll just release that a bit so I can give it a press open. I know I was on Saturday, I think it was last Saturday, I was on YouTube on Zoom with Yvette Renee Creations. She's the one that got me hooked on paper piecing. Mind you, I don't do it the same way she does, but she is the one that got me hooked. She is a wonderful lady. Just a wonderful lady. I guess I could call her a girl because she's much younger than I am. Everybody's younger than I am, by the way. Okay. What was I doing? C4 and B4. And this just proves how I can get lost very easily. We will send you the code for this Saturday. Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. I think we can get this all done in 2 hours with all my babbling. B4. And C4, yeah. That's lining up really good there. Don't want to move that paper too much. Do you have my email, Kathy? Or I don't know if you have my email. I'm not sure if I'm on your new Facebook page or not when you brought in the new one. Okay, what was I doing again? C4. Put it in the right place. There. C4 and C4. Yep, I will actually, my email is in the description below the video. You can send it to the channel email, and it's all lowercase around to it, shirley@gmail.com. And I will, okay, I gotta, my mind just went, B4. Thank heavens it's easy to get back on track. Okay, that's right, and that's right. But yes, my email, the channel email is in the description below the video. So now I'm going to check here, and I can see this is lining up. I don't have a whole lot on this side, but I have a lot on this side. So I'm just going to scooch that over just a little tiny bit. Put my clip in, and I'll try to go a little faster. Because I want, see, I started at 2:30, so I like to keep it to 2 hours, but might go over this time. So now there's the folded edge of my paper, and there's the folded edge of my fabric, so I do have to scooch this over just a little bit more. Whoops. And that's a little too much. Back we go. Okay. Give that a whirl. Let's see if my phone is back to being cooled off. Just give me a second here. And there we are. Yeah, I might have to use my new iPhone for my sewing camera. Like I said, my other camera that I had, the other view, since the update to my computer, it won't connect. So that and Apple, my camera and Apple are not playing nice together. Whoa, and now here's something that's happened that I can show you. So here you can see that I have come apart. You don't have to worry because we're going to lay that right down there. And to make sure that I have this in the right spot, I am going to press this into the finished position. And the reason that came apart from the freezer paper was this little iron isn't as hot as my other one, and I probably just didn't press it long enough to hold it down. But now, no problem. We'll press it into the finished position. And if that happens to you, so this is still, even though I pressed that, that's still loose. So I am going to take this, fold it back, it's lined up. Here is my stitching line, and it's matching up there. And this is just sort of stretched a little bit, but we'll show you how we put that all back together if that happens. Just going to press that open. Okay, this is lining up really good there. So I think I need to press that seam open. Okay, check and make sure that that seam is lining up right there. I'll fold my paper back. Make sure that seam is laying open. You don't want it folded to one side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this is just a wool pressing mat that I made. I made my my own wool pressing mat. So now we're going to put this back together so we have it in the right position. So I'm going to go back to this point right here, and I can place my pins into that, and I'm going to put a pin right at that point, lift it up, and it is coming out exactly at the point that I need. So now I'm going to push that back in, and I'll give this a press from the right side, or the printed side of the freezer paper. And now I am going to match up this point right here. And this should be now pressed into position and holding that where it needs to be, so I could take that pin out. And I'll use that pin, and right at this point right here, I'm going to stick my pin in right there, lift it up, and it is coming out exactly. It's exactly on that point. So now that I know it's in the right position, I can press this back in, line this back up, and that came open a bit. So now I'm going to line this edge up. I'll move over a bit. So this point right here, that fold, or that fold line, should match up with the center of that seam. And I'm going to press this down so it holds it into position. And once I've got that pressed down, I will take this pin again, line that up. Right at that corner, I'm going to put the pin in, push it right in, and see if, and it came out exactly on that seam line. Not a little to the left and not a little to the right. So I know that that's now, even though it has come off, I know that if I keep that pin there and press the freezer paper back down, I know that when I trim my final block, it's going to be exactly where it needs to be. And I do have my other little iron here. I'm going to just press that down just to make sure. Just sometimes that little iron just isn't hot enough. So that is good. Do the same thing with this. This one's stuck together good, so it's just a matter of pressing the seam open. You're welcome, Kathy. Okay. And that seam is going right along there where I need it to be. I think this one I'm going to use a little bit of that magic juice, just to keep that on there. Make that corner, or that fold seam line there, or that seam line, nice and open. There we go. And I'm just finger pressing it. And that looks good. That's right where it needs to be. We'll just do a double check and poke our pin through there and make sure that it's not gone out of alignment and it's a little off kilter, or else I didn't put my pin in exactly. try it again. And that looks pretty close. That way I don't lose my points. Okay, we're on the last two triangles here. Now, C5 and B5. Put my stuff back where it belongs. So C5, I need to fold and trim. And Kathy, I will be coming up as Shirley Heineman. That will be the name on that I'll come up on. Just so you know I'm not a troll or... And I'm working on B5. So this is B5. There we go. And that is background. Got a bit of paper left on there. Now this one should be easy to line up. One goes on that side, the other one goes on this side. Oh no, they both go on the same side. Okay. That block over there turned out okay, so I guess this one will too. And I guess I should turn my sewing machine on or off. Is it on? No, it's not on. Well, heavens to Betsy. Now it's on. Okay. You probably didn't see me sewing there. Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate that. Be nice to chat with some friends. Okay, that is where I want it to be. Now, what am I doing here? I'm checking. Okay, lots on that side, lots on that side. We are... I come on between 11 and 11:30 PST. Remember, it is a private Zoom, just us ladies, no chat or anything like that. Yep. Yeah, I understand, Kathy. Yeah, I join a lot of those. Okay, yes, you can see me sewing. My sewing machine was moving almost as fast as Tiffany. Not quite as fast, but can't wait to see you there too, Kathy. Okay, we'll give this a little press. And then we can trim and sew these things together. When I'm doing 4 at a time, like I usually do. Okay, I'm just going to switch this back here. Turn my phone camera off. Oh, we don't want that. We want that. There we go. Okay. Now, we were opening those seams so we can get this thing put together. Yeah, when I'm doing 4 at a time, which, you know, I print out, I can usually get I can usually get 16, 4, 8, 12, 16. Sometimes I can get 16 done in a sitting when I'm sewing by myself and I'm chain piecing and doing it, because I'll stack up all my, usually I'll cut all my fabrics, and then however many stitching templates I have, I'll just keep working from there. And I don't think I need to check to make sure everything's lined up there. If it's off a little bit, that's no problem. Okay. Yep, that's looking good. I can see that line lining up. The only other one is maybe this point right here. Press that open. Whoops. Now, I think in the other videos I've told you that I don't, I could never figure out which way I'm supposed to be pressing my seams. So they nest, so that's why I press them open. If I press them open, then I don't have to worry about which way they're going. And I do my own quilting. I don't send my quilts out, so there's no deal in that. So okay, we have all our rows done. This is B. We're going to be doing some trimming, so I can move this off to the side. This is B. This is C. This is A. And this is D. And that looks like it's coming together as a star. So now let's stack these up. C, or D, C, B, and A. I'll just move some things out of the way and move this back so we can do some trimming. So on the A block, I'm going to be using this ruler. It has white and black lines on it. And instead of trying to line the edge of my ruler up with the edge, that solid black line, which is my cutting line, I am going to line up the white and black 1/4 inch line along the 1/4 inch seam mark, and that's the dotted line. And I'm just going to go a little bit to line that up a little bit to the right, and I shouldn't see any black on this side for the line. So I'm trimming away from the stitching line, not trying to line up that black line. That's too hard, and I need my I need my weight on my ruler, because I don't want to cut myself anymore. And even though this is a Creative Grids ruler, I don't want that ruler to slip. So, and away we cut. And here's my scrap so far. I think I forgot to show you the scraps last time. So I'm just lining up that 1/4 line, 1/4 inch mark with that 1/4 inch seam line. Check to make sure I have no black. Try not to misalign the ruler as I'm putting things down. Whoops. We didn't cut that. There we go. this is just a short one, so if I do make a mistake, it's not too serious. A is done. Now, I know that this, if you had a whole bunch of half square triangles, you would have to trim all those half square triangles down to make them the right size. I really don't have to trim half square triangles because I didn't use half square triangles. I used my templates, and I don't need a specialty ruler. And yet I am going to get flying geese and half square triangles. How are we doing so far? Everybody happy? Hope you guys are getting lots done while you're listening to me babble away. So now that's B, C. So this is me trimming flying geese and half square triangles. Whoops, I just moved that. Line it back up again. Can't see the black line. Put that down again. Moved a little. Does anyone have a favorite block they like to make? And if you're busy, you don't have to come back and answer. You can just think about it and tell me next time. Don't stop what you're doing. There's C. And if you're not in the chat, thank you to anyone who is out there lurking away. Thank you for joining. When I first was watching YouTube, I would just sit in the background and not say a word. Just that little. I'm not sure how many of these blocks I'm going to need. I never really plan anything in ahead. I just, if I was making a big quilt or something like that, and that's why I don't make usually large projects, is because one, I can get bored, and then I'd have to set it to the side and then worry about I'll get bored, and then when I set it aside, and then it's like, oh, I really should get around to it, yeah. So anyway, and that's why I try to keep things in small sections, like when I'm working and everything, because it just gets, it gets monotonous after a while, and I like to jump from one project to another, and I never finish anything. Well, sometimes I do. I can't say that. Those blocks are all beautiful in there. And now we're going to sew our blocks together, and I'm going to use my regular way of piecing them together. That's D, C, make sure I'm using the right one, yep, B. And now we'll take the paper off. I just sort of fold a little edge, come along to where the seam is, and sometimes I use a letter opener, sometimes I just use a point turner, just run that down there. Some fabrics will fray more than others. Now I'm going to place this the way it's supposed to be, and that's like that. Set that off to the side, turn my mat so it's got all the length that way. This is my B. Again, take the paper off. And like I said, I love taking the paper off even when it's stitched through. I find it very relaxing. But this way I don't get any paper stuck in the seams. So this is the way it's going to go together. Now remember, if you've watched any of my other videos, we're going to do the little markings. This is the way it's supposed to be stitched together. And when the first time I did this, it's that doesn't look right, but it's right. And so now we're going to, I'm just going to mark at this end right here, 1/4 of an inch from the cut edge and 1/4 of an inch in. And I'm just going to put a little black mark with my friction pen. And that's just sort of a guide for me when I go to match up those ends. I just want to make sure that I'm lining them up properly. Now, normally I would match up whatever seams, and I would use my ruler to find the 1/4 inch from the cut edge. But this time I don't, because I can put a pin right in here. I glue pin. Lori Clark says she is, like I'm doing now, sitting back all quiet. Don't laugh out loud then if you're sitting back quiet. So now my glue is not coming out there very good. I'm using the acorn glue, and I don't pin my seams, I glue pin. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue along the seam line right where that is. Put a little bit at this end, and I forgot to mark that end. Come on. So we'll give that end a mark. And that's the only places I need to mark and glue. And I'll just give it a little mark here where that 1/4 inch seam should be. And I can see that. Put the cap back on my glue. So now I'm going to go, and with my pin right at the tip of that white, I'm going to put a pin in, and then again lift it up, and that is perfectly at that tip. So I'm going to take that pin, and at the tip here, I'll do it this way, hopefully you can see, I'm going to put that pin, and I'm using very fine pins, and I'm putting it right at the tip of that triangle and just putting it straight up and down, and just let the fabric lay down. Just do the same thing on this end. Make sure it's coming out exactly on the seam line. And it is, so I just have to make sure that it's matching up with the little dot I made. So match it up with the little dot. So those sides are lining up. And the same thing on this side. I don't have to, it's right there. I don't have to pin or glue anything in between unless when I go to press this down. So that is all lined up. My edges are lined up there. Everything is in position. And I'm just going to use this iron. Just to press that down. The glue will hold that in place, so I don't have to use pins to hold it in, and my pins aren't shifting my fabric. And now we'll do this so I can chain piece those, or the blocks, the rows together. Okay, that looks good from that side. And now do I need to, nope, don't need to do anything there. So now we'll put these two together. So this one goes up here, and this one goes down here. Take the freezer paper off. Sometimes I just use my hand. That came out nicely. That is C, okay. We know where that goes. And this is D. I'm going to go, okay, I've been on for 2 hours. I'm just going to go a little bit longer. I'll put this together and just give you a sneak peek at what I'm going to try to accomplish. Okay, now we flip this over. Where's my little ruler? There it is. Just gonna give a little dot here at the end. I just don't want to go off crooked on my ends. That's why I'm lining this up like this. I do have a tendency to veer off at the beginning and end of my seams. And again, I don't have to mark in the middle because I have my points to line up. We'll glue here, here, and I am just using a very little bit of glue. And pins. Poke in there. Poke in there, and that lines up. Now we'll do the center. And that is exactly on the center. And we'll just do this end. I gotta find my... Now take this to the machine and we'll chain piece this, and then we should have only, oops, that's kind of bunching up there. There we go. Use my iron just to heat set that. And we'll go and stitch that. I'll turn my sewing machine back on. Turn that camera on, and then we'll just what will we do? I forgot what I was doing. Oh yes, we'll chain piece these two pieces together. Now that I've set that glue, I can take my pins out. Okay, so now we'll take this to the sewing machine, and I want to make sure I'm sewing on the proper side. So we'll take that to the sewing machine. Here we are. So I'm going to line up the edge of my fabric along the edge of my presser foot there. There's two edges, one here and one here, and I'm using this inside one because that is about a scant 1/4 inch or a 1/4 inch that I figured out. And I'm just going to watch this side, not watching my needle. Now when I come to the points where I want to match, I am going to use my pokey tool, and I'm going to put my pokey tool down there right at that point. When I come up, I'm going to watch the point on my stitch in the ditch foot, and that is going to come right up. Whoop, and that has to go down underneath. So now that point, if I line it up with that point, I should come out with almost perfect match. Make sure none of my seams have flipped over. Again. Now, yeah, okay, we'll do it on this side. Line that up. Back stitch. Now again, I'm coming up to where I need to make sure that I'm stitching just a little bit to the right of that point, and I mean a little bit. There we go. Hopefully my cameras, and I'm not glitching, my cameras are working okay. Okay, we've got that chain piece. I know some people will leave their papers in, and that's when they're stitching through the paper. Because I'm using the freezer paper and I want to reuse my templates, I want to reuse my templates. I can't really do that. So now we're going to check and see how those points line up, and that looks pretty good to me. Pretty darn good. It's a little, I can see a little bit red there, but that's, like I said, I'm accurate now, and that's close enough as well. So now the first thing I have to do is, because I glued that, I'm just going to take my point turner and just run that between the seam, and then that releases any glue, because I want to press the seam open. And that just releases that glue. The Acorn seam-align glue is really good as long as you don't overdo it. Okay, run that along. I know it's an extra step, but I find I get more accurate joins if I use the glue. So it's Wednesday. Anybody got any plans for the weekend? Okay. Now I have to open this up, and if the, just pull my seam apart, because if the glue went over that seam line, I want to make sure that when I press that seam open, that my seams are going to be nice and flat and I don't have any little folds. Otherwise my block won't turn out the right size. So all the glue is released. Now I'm going to use my pressing stick. This is just the stick covered with a piece of flannel. And that, when I open this like this, it's going to just hold it. That flannel kind of, the fabric kind of sticks to the flannel. And press my seams open and make sure they are open. And I'm going to use this iron because it's a bit hotter. And I can just use a bit of steam there. Just a little on that seam. I don't know, that looks good to me. Now I'll do the other one. You're just watching baseball games. Oh, okay. Football season is what we usually watch here. I don't usually watch sports since my husband passed away, but occasionally I will. If it's a playoff game. Kathy, Jory is on. Oh. Who is Jory? Is that a YouTuber that, another YouTuber, or is that, So now I'm just going to give this a quick press. And I don't have any little jagged edges on my seams there. So now one last seam to put together and this puppy will be done. Again, fold it over, and here I don't have to match anything because I've got points matching to points. So I am going to just glue and stitch. So glue there. We're just going to glue at that end, glue at this point, and I'm rubbing it back and forth so I don't get a big glob of glue. And pins. Poke my pin in at that point. Oh, Jory is a guy who plays video games. Oh, okay. A gaming YouTuber. Yeah, okay. I'm not a gamer. I do play solitaire online, but not with a group of people. That came out right at the point. And now we're going to put our pin in here. And that's not quite at the point. And that looks pretty good, so we're just going to poke those in at that point. Line up our ends. And my phone is telling me it's time to stand up. Okay. My phone actually alerted me again today that my heart rate was too high. I have no idea how that got on there, but it was telling me that my heart rate was too high and I was sitting down. So after my heart issues, I guess I should kind of listen to my watch when it says that. That's never happened before, so either my heart rate before was good or somehow that notification thing got put on there. Last seam, everybody, and then we do our final check, and I'll show you the sneak peek of what I'm doing next, and we'll call it a day after that. Okay, let's see if I can just do that last. Oh, come back here. There we go. Okay, I'm stitching the right side, yes. Again, I'm coming up to that point that I need to match. I will use my pokey tool, watch the tip, and I come up right to that point. I want that line to right on that point. And again, now, sewing machine. Ooh, we lost the desk. There we are. I'm back. I have to turn my phone off so it doesn't overheat. Oops, I need that stick. So first of all, we'll release the glue, just so I can press those seams open. You could press them to one side if you like, but like I said, I never know which way they're going to lay. Okay, now we're going to fold open and just make sure. Oh, Kathy likes the Nintendo games. Oh. Oh, I think those points look pretty good to me. I think they'll be just fine. So we'll just put this over top of our stick. Open the seam. And we'll do our final check. I think I want a little bit of magic juice here. Again, if I think my seams aren't laying flat enough, I can always go back and put a little magic juice on them and make them lay flat. Okay. Let's use this one. It gives a nice hot. Now, the nice thing about using a pressing stick to press your seams open is that your iron isn't, you've pressed those seams open, and sometimes if I don't use the pressing stick, these seams here, I'll end up pressing them away from where I wanted them to be. And there is our block. We'll give it one final press. Just get rid of some of this stuff. And now I would not, if you have not pre-washed your fabrics, I would not advise you to press anything with steam I've pre-washed my fabrics, but I'm just going to press it with a hot iron. If you hit your block now with starch, best press, or anything like that, you're adding moisture and heat, and that could shrink your fabric. So there we go. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy says it's a beautiful block. Well, we'll find out if it's beautiful or not, because I have to check my points and see if I still have enough fabric, and I have to check and see. So now we're going to check our points, and well, we better put that on here. This is a 9.5 inch block, and whoops, you can't see that. Let's move over here. Okay, 1/4 of an inch away, and we'll make sure that's lined up on that end. Here is my point there, and there is my 9.5. So we're going to give it a flip this way, line this up, and this way I am a little tiny bit over about a 1/16 of an inch, not even a 1/16 of an inch. But everything in here is fine, and if I check in the middle, it is almost exactly 9.5 inches. It's a little tiny bit over, but I mean a couple of threads over. So there's my block, made without half square triangles, without flying geese, all done paper piecing, and there's no trimming up at the end. So there it is. Now, quickly, I want to show you what I'm working on next. This is my block that's going to go with the other block. Just let me switch the camera back to me. Okay, hi! Another block done. So you might notice over here, this is the template that I'm starting to make, and it's going to be a snowflake. And it's from January 2015, Snowflake, and it is from Carol Doak. Carol Doak, if you don't know who she is a tremendous lady who does paper piecing, and I have decided that I want to make, from Christmas fabric, I want to make blocks using this. This is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is only 1/8 of the block that's going to measure 12.5 inches unfinished. The finished block is going to be 12 inches finished. Now,
It's 5 o'clock.
it's 5 o'clock. Thank you, ma'am. Somewhere I have all the printouts for it. Just give me a second. It will take me a minute to find out what I lost. And if I can't find it, well, I can't find it. I had it here. Let's check where I should have put it. It is a rather, here. This is a rather intimidating block because it's made up of that. So it is Carol Doak 2015. This is the block, and it's made up of four sections, and each one of those sections has 2 pieces stitched diagonally together. These are Carol's instructions. Do you think I can do it? This is her coloring sheet to put the blocks together. And I've just decided to make mine blue and everything. And this is a black and white printout that she gives you of putting the blocks together in alternating colors. And she's just done this in black and white. But she gives you the coloring sheet that you can play with colors. This is a free pattern as far as I know. It had to have been, because I wouldn't have printed it or wouldn't have gotten it if it wasn't free. But she is giving all these instructions, and I couldn't follow them, so I'm doing it my way. And I'll get my blocks, the rest of the pieces done, and must have lost my block. Oh well. Anyway, so that's what I'm working on next. So thank you. Oh, here it is. Here's my piece. So I've got a few more of these to make, but when I get them made up and put together, I will give you a show. So thank you very much for joining me today, everyone, and I appreciate your participation in my crazy world, and thank you. And I just might come on again on Friday. I've got these table runners. I've put borders on them, and I've got them to quilt, and I'll do that on my sewing machine. So thanks again, everyone, and have a safe day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.